Hi everyone, welcome back to Ilum Sabers. Today's video is one that I mentioned making in the previous video, and so I went ahead and got everything set up for that, and I'm glad that I can compare these two hilts now. So in the last video that I made, I was doing an install review of the one replica's SSOB, going over the chassis that I used, kind of showing off the interior of the install, showing off, how everything worked and all that kind of stuff. And I mentioned that I wanted to get a comparison between the stunt version of the prop, which this one is, and the more classic hero version of the prop. And so for those of you who have been watching the channel for a little while, you know that I have previously reviewed the Pock Store OWP, the Ultimate Works or Pock Store OWP, and so that is their take on the Obi-Wan Phantom Menace hero prop. So this one is more kind of classic Obi-Wan Phantom Menace. Of course, hilt similar to both of these is used in the film. This is the one that you generally would think of. It's got the sort of silver accents in between the grooves there. You've got the pretty big pommel cubes with the holes in them. It's a little shinier overall, although it's still just polished aluminum, which is accurate. So I wanted to go ahead and just compare them side by side. So we'll go ahead and go top to bottom like I normally like to do. First things first, when you look at them, everything is pretty much in the same place, which I noticed when comparing this to the Black Series Obi-Wan. Everything's pretty much in the same place. It's just the proportions that are different, and the finishes as well. So you can see the red buttons are in the same place. You've still got the purple greebly in the same place here and on that one. A difference right away is that the purple greebly on this is really kind of a shiny gem, and on this one it is just like a machined metal piece with some purple paint on like a circular piece inside there. So it's not really a jewel per se. Something else to notice is that this one has these pieces here, these sort of greeblies here actually have shine through. So the blade actually does shine through. You can see the color of the blade through those, whereas on this one, they do not. Something else to note is that, of course, the Pock Store one did come with a blade plug, which is not the most accurate blade plug, but you could easily switch that out. This one didn't come with one at all. Something else to notice is that the color of the black finishing is matte on this one, whereas it is more of a gloss on this one. And it's pretty common to see a gloss finish, although technically on this hilt, the matte would be more accurate to the screen used prop. Like I said, it is pretty common for people to have sort of idealized versions of these props and use sort of a gloss to match the shininess of the polished aluminum. Additionally, while the aluminum on this one is polished, the aluminum on this one is not. It's certainly not a dull aluminum. It's been polished to some degree, but it's not polished to where it's shiny. I can almost see my reflection in this one, and in this one, I just see streaks of light. Going down a little further, you'll see the biggest difference probably in the hilt is that the main grip section does not have the silver accents in between the grooves on this one. So you can see the difference there. Something else to notice is that actually right here, right below this sort of what people sometimes call the thin neck on this saber, this one actually has a little bit less kind of going on there. So this one is sort of more straightforward. You've just got this piece here, whereas this one has kind of an extra lip on top up here. So that is just sort of a small detail that I've noticed. Nothing big. This has a more rounded upper grip section, whereas this one, it curves up on both, but then on this one, it's a little more flat. So that's another small difference. Your cover techs are pretty much the same size. The Stunt replica has a silver Allen key button head screw inside there, whereas this one has a black one. I believe the black is more accurate because most high-end replicas are using the black ones. Something else to notice is that the cover tech on this one actually is that matching sort of gloss, semi-gloss material, whereas this one is the matte that matches the rest of this one. The pommel on this one is much less detailed. The thin section on it here is actually a little less than what it is on this one. You can kind of see that. perhaps there. See if I can kind of show that well. So I would say that the thin section on this one is more thin, and it's also a little more detailed. You've got kind of that, you've kind of got this like stair-stepping thing going on here. Whereas on this one, you don't, you have a similar thing going on. Like it's definitely inspired by that, but it's not quite as intricate. Which again makes sense because the stunt prop would not be quite as intricate as the hero prop. Something else to notice is that the pommel cubes, of course, are different sizes, and the pommel cubes on this do not have the holes. The pommel cubes on the hero prop have the holes, whereas on this one there are no holes, and the pommel cubes themselves are smaller. The venting on this one is actually between the pommel cubes. You can kind of see, if you look at that there, you can kind of see there's a little bit of space in there. You can see some light coming through. That is where it's vented, and it's pretty nice hidden venting. The Ultimate Works OWP does use hidden venting as well. It hides the venting in this circle on the pommel, which is pretty well hidden, I think, because even the one replicas, which has the venting down here, it still has that circle here. So that's just part of the prop. So they were able to, Ultimate Works was able to hide the venting in something that was just a piece of the pommel, which is pretty cool, I think. Both of these do have removable chassis as well. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the Ultimate Works OWP. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the Ultimate Works OWP. And inside of there, you can see the Ultimate Works chassis system connector, which is a different connector, of course, than the one on the hilt that I just installed, but it is a similar idea. So these hilts are overall very similar. Go ahead and show the interior of this one as well. So go ahead and unscrew this. The chassis will come out, and then on the inside, you can see the connector on this one. Something else that is different about the design of the hilts themselves are that this is the pommel piece for the Ultimate Works, and this is the pommel piece for the one replicas. So when you unscrew the pommel from the Ultimate Works, it is a completely pommel-less saber, no pommel. When you unscrew the pommel from the one replica's hilt, however, you do have the sort of, see on the Ultimate Works, it was like this. On this one, you've got this extra piece here. So you've got this extra sort of area of the pommel there. Just differences in design, not really necessarily differences between how the hero and stunt props look. I just thought that was an interesting difference. Both of these are installed. So they both have, of course, light up connectors on the inside. This one you can't see just because of the blade plug. This version actually does have a black ring under here. It kind of looks like an O-ring, but it is metal. The one replica's version does not. It is just, silver underneath there. And of course, part of that is because the Ultimate Works hilt was made with accuracy in mind, meaning that these are all different pieces, right? The one replicas was made with accuracy in mind, not to the hero prop, but to the stunt prop, and overall just, more of an ergonomic design above all. And so this is actually machined out of one piece of aluminum and then painted. Whereas this one is several different pieces of metal that are finished and assembled. So it's pretty amazing that this hilt is, as detailed as it is, really, for, being machined out of a single piece of aluminum. That is quite impressive. And it gives it a really sturdy feel in the hand, right? Because the aluminum's not very heavy, but you can tell the way you're holding is very sturdy. It feels like an aluminum pipe, which, you can smack the crap out of, and it's not going to break. Of course, you wouldn't want to do that with an expensive lightsaber, but that's kind of the idea. Whereas this, it's a little heavier, and it feels very solid in your hand. But for some reason, there's just something that feels a little different between one piece of tubing and something that is assembled. This by no means feels like it's going to fall apart. By no means does it feel flimsy or anything like that. It just feels different, right? It's just holding something that is a collection of parts versus something that is in itself one piece. The last difference that I can really think of is going to be the red button here. So on this one, you've got a button that screws in actually. So the button itself actually screws in here. You can kind of see these threads, and then it literally is just a plunger on the inside, and you've got a tactile button that you press here and the plunger activates it. So this outer part here is actually part of the screw, whereas this part inside the circle, and it's really, really well hidden. So let's see if I can kind of show that. But only the flat surface on top is actually what pushes. So when you push this, you actually are pushing it into the rest of the red part here. It's a really ingenious design. The activation on this hilt is still this red button here. Of course, because of the Ultimate Work system, you could actually make it either of these. So both of these are buttons, and the way the system works, if you rotate the chassis 180 degrees, you actually can change which button is power and which button is aux. So assuming that this is your power button here, the way that it works that's different is that actually the entire this entire red thumb screw is actually on a plunger of its own. So you push it and the entire thing actually pushes down. This entire red button moves down. Whereas for the One Replicas version, the button remains stationary and only the top, which is part of the plunger mechanism, is what moves. In pressing each of them, the action on them both feels very good. But I would say that if I had to choose one, it's probably this one, just because the way that the button on this one sticks up, you press kind of the side of it, you know, you run the chance of maybe not pushing the button or getting kind of a weird press. Whereas for this one, because of the way that it's set up, you can't press it wrong. You know, if you get a press, it's a press. I really like the way that the button works on this. I will say another functional difference is going to be that the greebly here is not a button like it is on this one. So this is a 1-button setup, this is a 2-button setup. So both of these are buttons on the Ultimate Works version, and only this red button is the button on this version. Not really a big deal. You can do all the same functions with a 1-button setup as you could with a 2-button setup, just some different controls to make it work that way. But overall, I would say that that is the majority of the differences. I'll kind of end this with sort of a side-by-side. You can kind of see this is actually the One Replicas is quite a bit thinner than the Hero prop, which I think is very interesting. Of course, that is the goal of the Stunt sabers that he makes, but you can see in looking at them from top to bottom, the Stunt saber is quite a bit thinner. Pretty neat. So I'll go ahead and end this video here. I will at the end of the video, I will put just a side-by-side photo of these hilts sitting next to each other so you can compare them for yourselves. As always, thank you for joining me today on the channel. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment what you thought about the comparison between the hilts, if you had a favorite one. If you have another one that I didn't mention here, you know, feel free to let us know what your favorite is. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, especially if you enjoy the content. It really helps me know that you guys enjoy this kind of stuff. Once again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.